So a minimal valuable product is literally the basic version of your product that you can get out there and allow customers to use, right? So when I was at the University of Mississippi, I had an idea for an app. And so I entered it into a competition called the Startup Weekend competition. And during that competition, I created like a mock-up version of my app. And so that mock-up was the minimum valuable product. It didn't allow people to be able to, it wasn't on the app, so people couldn't download it. I mean, it wasn't like on the app store, so people couldn't download it or anything like that. It was literally just forums where people could click through and see how the app would work. And that was a minimal valuable product, right, that I presented. What's up, fam? Before we get into today's episode, I want you to go check out our website at www.igotdreamspodcast.com and subscribe to our emailing list. We are creating the ultimate accountability group for entrepreneurs. So if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a business leader, if you are a dreamer, we want you to be a part of our group. All you got to do is go to www.igotdreamspodcast.com and subscribe to our emailing list, and we'll take it from there. This thing is going to be bigger than us, and we want you to be a part of it. Again, go to www.igotdreamspodcast.com and subscribe to our emailing list. Now, let's get back to the show. Today, we are still in the Lean Startup book, right? So we are still in part 1, but we are in the last session, which is session 4, which is titled Experiment. And this one was pretty straightforward. Basically was saying whatever idea that you got, whatever product that you got, go out and create experiments for that. So basically test your assumptions. So with that being said, I got 5 points from this chapter. From this section, I got 5 points. So the first point is failing equals learning. Failing equals learning. Like if you can't fail, then you can't learn, right? And so basically what I took that to mean is whenever you're trying something new, like there are going to be failures and there are going to always be opportunities for you to learn. But if you actually learn from it, it's not really a failure. It's kind of like a stepping stone, right? That's how I look at everything in life. Like it's never a failure if you learn from it. So the fact that you learn from it and you gain a different perspective and you know how to do it better next time is actually a win in my book, not really a failure. The book says the goal of every startup experiment is to discover how to build a sustainable business around their vision, right? And so you discover how to do that by experimenting. So like getting your product out there in front of people, letting them test it and getting feedback from those customers and adjusting as needed. That's going to always be the theme, it seems like in this book, is to adjust, like get the product out there, get it to a customer and adjust your product based on the feedback that you get from your potential customer, right? Point 2 that I got is to think big, but start small. Think big, but start small. And the book talks about this example with this company called Zappos, right? So Zappos is a $1 billion company today. I think they were actually bought out by Amazon, but they didn't start that way. So they are a shoe company where people can go online and purchase shoes online. They were like one of the first to ever do it, right? Well, they started out just by creating like a simple product or a simple website where people can go visit and purchase a shoe. But how they did it was they didn't sell their own shoes, right? They went to a merchandise or just a general store or something like that. They saw shoes on the rack, took pictures of it, posted those pictures up to their website. And when someone purchased it from that website, they would then go purchase the shoes from the store and then send them to that customer. And that's their way. That's how they started small. So they started that way. They got customers. They got feedback from their customer just to test their idea. And then they grew based on the feedback that they got from their customer. And so that's an example of thinking big, but starting small. And when you start small, it actually gives you that ability, again, to test your assumptions, to test or to receive that customer feedback and to adjust their product based on the customer feedback. Point number three is that, again, feedback is essential, right? So feedback is essential. Part of the book, it talks about a story where a woman, she worked for a Fortune 500 company, but she had this volunteer initiative, right? And so she wanted this, the company was a global company, and so she wanted this initiative to be a global initiative where employees from that certain company would volunteer in community efforts, right? And so she was going to test this theory by starting with a small group of people, of employees, and having them to volunteer for a certain event um, that's offered through the company that's going to support the community, right? And so based off the feedback, so she, so basically she has set like standards in place, and one of those standards was that if employees were going to volunteer a second time, then that means the experiment was successful, right? So they volunteered the first time, right? If they did it again, then that means that this could be something that's sustainable, right? And so what the book talks about is feedback is essential. So let's say in that case, no one would have volunteered the second time. Does that mean that her project was a failure? No. Like what it means is that she actually needs to go back, get feedback from these people, and discover the reason as to why they didn't volunteer anymore. And so, well, essentially what it's saying is, she created a product, she got customers, she got feedback, and then she adjusts as needed, and then adjust as needed. Can't say that enough. The book really drives it's like adjust, adjust, adjust. Create a product, get it out there to customers, and adjust based off the feedback. So that's 3 points so far. So point number one was spelling equals learning. Point number two was think big but start small. Point number three was feedback is essential. And then point number four is an experiment is a product, right? So an experiment is a product. And so the book actually talks about when you create an experiment, it is essentially the first product that you get out there to customers, right? And so when you create that first iteration, you'll eventually start a product. And by the time the product is ready to distribute widely, it will already have established customers. It will have solved real problems and offer detailed specifications for what needs to be built, right? And so your experiment is essentially your first product, and it's really called a minimal valuable product, which is MVP for short. So a minimal valuable product is literally the basic version of your product that you can get out there and allow customers to use, right? So when I was at the University of Mississippi, I had an idea for an app, and so I entered it into a competition called the Startup Weekend competition. And during that competition, I created like a mock-up version of my app. And so that mock-up was the minimum valuable product. It didn't allow people to be able to, it wasn't on the app, so people couldn't download it. I mean, it wasn't like on the App Store, so people couldn't download it or anything like that. It was literally just forums where people could click through and see how the app would work. And that was a minimal valuable product, right, that I presented. And so that's what the book is talking about, like just creating that minimal valuable product, that MVP, just so people can see what it is. They can touch it, they can feel it, and then give you feedback on that. So that was point number four, is an experiment is a product. And then this is the last point. Test your assumptions, right? So whatever assumption that you might have about your product, you actually need to test them. So it's identifying the elements of a plan that are assumptions rather than facts, and figuring out ways to test them right. So any assumption that you have about your business or anything like that. Like those are the things that you need to test. Like you like the facts are what the facts are, but you still don't know about your assumptions. For instance, let's say you had an assumption that out of, let's say, 10 people, right, that you think that only 4 people are going to download your app, right? So the only way to test that assumption is actually go and find 10 people, tell them about your product, and see how many people actually download it, right? And so let's say so your assumption was that 4 people would download this app out of 10, right? Or let's say 6 people downloaded it. So now you have an assumption. You tested it, and now you know the results, right? And so that's basically what point number 5 is. So the 5 points again: number 1 is battling equals learning. Number 2, think big, start small. Number 3, feedback is essential. And number 4, an experiment is a product. And number 5, test your assumptions. Man, that's it for today. I hope y'all are reading this book along with me, because again, I will eventually take this live into like a small group of people where we can actually talk about the book, where we can actually discuss, and where we can actually grow together. But next week, we are finally in part 2, which is called Steer. So part 2, which is Steer, again, get the book, The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. Like, get it. Let's go through it together. Let's grow as business owners. Let's grow as entrepreneurs, and let's get to this freedom, y'all. Man, y'all have a blessed and wonderful day. I love you. Peace. Bam. Thank you for listening to this episode. I know you just received a lot of value. So look, here's what I want you to do now. Go to our social media platforms on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok at I Got Dreams Podcast everywhere, and like, comment, subscribe to all those channels, and let's continue the conversation on there. Look, I told you before, we are creating the ultimate accountability group for entrepreneurs, and we want you to be a part of that group. So go ahead, like, comment, subscribe to our channels at I Got Dreams Podcast everywhere, and we'll see you there. Peace.